Don't
Boop.
forget to turn your ringers on.
If anything comes in front of you, it's probably because I have my shield propped up.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, this is Dragon Con.
I just pressed the silent.
I'll be ready for any.
Good? All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Female Presenting in the Digital Space. I am Phaedra Black, and I have done this panel for, I think, 3 years now. So we try to have a good variety of people that kind of give an experiences of what being female in a previously male-dominated space is like. As you know, some areas are still pretty male-dominated, but we are taking over, and is becoming a lot more fun. So I'm Phaedra Black. I am a multi-content creator. I do adult content, TikTok, Twitch. I work with the Twitch community here for meetup events. We do charity events. We do live streaming, all kinds of different fun stuff. So that's kind of my purview with my industry. But I'm going to let everybody else introduce themselves because they can do it way better than I can.
My name is Heather Bodie, and I am a fitness professional, and I know that my last name looks like it should be Body, but it is Bodie is how it's pronounced. But I do get a lot of people who are like, is that a stage name? And I'm like, no, it's my real name. I just went into a profession where it looks like it could be both. So I got lucky in that way, I guess. But I am a digital creator who created my own workout program. It is called Geeknasium. So it's like gymnasium with geek in front of it. And it completely takes place online. It's totally virtual. And all of the workouts are themed in pop culture and fandom. I choreograph them and film them myself. And they're very accessible because I film them in my tiny New York City apartment, which means you could do them literally anywhere. And on top of that, I'm also an actor, a model, and I have a podcast called Mental Health Multiverse, where my co-host and I dissect pop culture and media through the lens of mental health and healing. So that's me.
Hi there, my name's Little Bit or Jen, either one. I am one of the hosts and the producer of the Dragon Con Report. I've been part of the show for about 6 or 7 years so far. I am also a commercial radio show DJ based out of San Antonio, Texas, with a focus on rockabilly and roots music, a former touring musician, and kind of a Jackie of all trades. I'm part of the cosplay group here. I help people with costuming and makeup emergencies. I also am the creator and main moderator of the Dragon Con parties, meetups, and more groups. So I spend months going through both the official and unofficial schedules to help people find meetups, off the beaten path parties, and maybe interesting events they had no idea were part of Dragon Con.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine E. Webel. I am an indie author here and I write fantasy. And as an indie author, that means I have to do every aspect of the business, including the marketing and advertising side. So I do the social media, the website development, newsletter aspects of my own business. But I also, because as an indie author, want to support other people, I live stream chats with other authors on a weekly basis through TikTok, and then repost them on my YouTube channel, as well as do various internet interviews where I post them on various blogs so people can find and follow various authors of all sorts.
That's amazing. I don't know how to follow all of them up. Hi, I'm Chelsea Bites. I am a computer scientist first because I build a lot of computers and I like the code, and I've taken that to Twitch as a content creator. I am sponsored by G2 Esports, so I love competition. I like to get really loud about it. And one project that I've been very proud of over the past year and a half is being Twitch's Women's Guild Global Leader. So that is a DEI Light program focused on uplifting women's voices, introducing them to people in the space, huge pillars that we've had the privilege of knowing, as well as giving them access to the platforms they're investing their time in, because that's really important. It's really important to feel like you belong to the space that you're inhabiting. Besides all that, I like to do variety streaming. I like to talk a lot and try to give people that social feeling of, wow, this is what a normal conversation is like. I'm not alone. I can just log in, have a good time, and show them what's inside their computers from time to time, because it's not about building them. It's just about knowing. That's really all you have to do. You don't have to go and spend thousands on a pre-built or go and struggle and put every part in yourself. You just got to know. Knowledge is power. So nice to meet y'all. This is a pleasure. I'm excited to hear from y'all because, oh my God, authors. We got, oh my goodness, we got
we got
people
some
who've been
fun
on the
stuff
road.
today.
Yeah.
So how I do this panel is we'll go through now and I will want each of us to kind of talk about one specific thing for you that is very different for a female in the industry that you're in. Kind of have a little bit of a story time, and then I do try to take it over to questions for the audience because I really want our panels to be interactive and not just have us talking at you. That's, to me, that's not fun. So for me, being an adult content creator, you do get a lot of negativity, you get a lot of stigma, you get a lot of condescending behavior from people because, oh, you're just a girl, you sell your boobs, you obviously aren't that smart, blah 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 blah. Do you realize how much work goes into that? Because you talk about like how you do everything from an indie author point where you do your own marketing, you do your own advertising, you do your own film editing, you do your own, there is choreography to it. You just don't get in there and see what happens. You plan all of this out and it does take time. But the downside to that, if you have other hobbies or other streams of, income like I do, where I work with Twitch and do a lot of video game stuff and meetups for there, is you are ostracized from any sort of promotions or any sort of brands that want to work with content creators because you choose to do something else. And working with the conventions that I do and the people that I meet is we're slowly cultivating a database of brands that are willing to work with adult content creators as well. Because they are still people, their jobs, they have incomes. It is a job. And, eventually as the people in charge age out of those positions, there will be a lot more opening up to the businesses with those creators. So, I'm cultivating relationships with the assistants and the VPs and all the people that aren't quite in charge yet, because they will be there. And when that does happen, then it's like, okay, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And it's a patient thing, but it is something that, you have to walk into and you're talking to people and, they hear about some of the things that I do. And then they go, oh, but you do that too. And then the whole conversation changes. And it's like I'm trying to work with getting rid of that stigma and that negative association with that part. And yeah, it's work.
I can go next as a fitness professional existing in what would be considered a larger body. A lot of men on the internet have abs. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're qualified to give you health advice. And that really bothers me about this industry is that a lot of it is do what I tell you and you can look like me. And that's not true. There's so much that factors in for women when it comes to their bodies that no matter how much training you have, I think that I just have the biggest pet peeve of a man telling a woman what to do with her body. So so for me, it just really rubs me the wrong way when I see someone who is probably genetically predisposed to look a certain way telling a woman that she needs to change things about herself. And that's the biggest struggle that I've come across, is not being seen as a valid industry professional because of my body type. And I've come up against it time and time again because I do, as my day job, I teach fitness classes at gyms, and there are certain gyms that won't hire me because of what I look like. And that's just kind of something that I've had to grapple with over the years. I did kind of fall into a trap where I, in a very unsustainable way, lost a lot of weight and tried to form myself to what society said was an acceptable body for a fitness instructor. And I fell into a lot of disordered behaviors because of that. And it wasn't sustainable. And it was kind of draining me and really mentally keeping me in a negative place. And there was actually a point where I was depriving myself of nutrition so much that I went to teach a class and I passed out. And I was like, yeah, this isn't health. This isn't what health is. And I kind of had to reevaluate my life and sort of go, oh, okay. So a lot of people promote weight loss, and that is not necessarily a health promoting behavior. There are people who go about it and do these fad diets that you see all over the internet, like 30-day this and 90-day this. And a lot of times when they promise that end result, you can get there, but it's not something that you could keep off without taking smaller steps and more lifestyle changes, because it's always a big drastic change really quickly, which does work, but it doesn't work long term. And so that's the biggest thing for me is going up against a lot of what is now considered fitness influencers, who are people who are not necessarily certified to be in the industry, or people who are not necessarily, they don't have the same education as I do, and they're telling people what to do with their bodies, and it is actually doing more harm than it is good. So yeah.
So a little bit of my struggles are a bit ironic because pretty much every career I've had for the past 20 years has been in a male dominated field. I don't know how many of you are familiar with rockabilly, but it's very much based in 50s pinup culture. So I was expected to look like a pinup girl. And being based out of Texas, I was expected to keep my mouth shut and look cute and front the band and sell merch, pretend that I was single to get people to spend more money on me, and often shocked people because I cuss a lot. I was raised by men in the Navy, and my grandfathers were covered in tattoos. As soon as I was old enough, I decided to start getting tattooed. I keep adding to them. I was very brash on the microphone as a singer. I was very brash at shows. I stood up for myself. I didn't let men get away with bad behavior. And when I transitioned to radio and the internet, it was the same way. You can't talk to me the way you want to talk to me because you're looking for this ideal of what someone in the vintage lifestyle should be like. I might have been raised a lady, but I will come at you like a sailor if I need to, if you're not acting like a respectful human being. And I don't necessarily think that that should just pertain to being a woman. I think people just need to treat each other well, no matter who you are. So I fight for that a lot. And running the DragonCon report and being the producer and behind the scenes and the live streams, I also have to make sure certain comments aren't going live and getting seen. And that can be a double-edged sword when you're streaming and you have 9 guests on the show and you're trying to pay attention to them and figure out how to make eye contact with the people on the other side of the camera, which I probably still haven't successfully done yet, but then also read your comment stream, because we do it our own. We don't have moderators helping us or anything like that. But yeah, that's just some of the struggles for the online space. Not even talking about when you're in person, which is its own set of issues sometimes. But for the most part, in person, people act completely differently because nobody wants to be called out in person.
People like to hide behind that keyboard, and
Yeah.
they think they can get away with saying all kinds of things.
Well, for myself, again, I am an author and I self-publish. The biggest challenge is trying to educate or re-educate people on how to find authors, realize valuable writing, and the fact that statistically, I had some stats I pulled, the fact that I have to re-educate online and even in person, the fact that indie publishing is valid publishing. People assume that you have to be traditional published to be valid. And so there is a big re-education that I have to do with readership and viewership to explain, guess what? About 50% of Kindle's top 400 books last year were indie published. And actually, indie publishing is a women-dominated field right now, where 40.9% of income-wise, women make 40.9% higher amounts than men in indie publishing versus traditional publishing, where it's very male-dominated. So there is a re-education of, 1, indie publishing is valuable. 2, I, as a woman, can do very well there. And when it comes to specific genres and trying to reach people in viewerships, because I write fantasy of all sorts, including dark fantasy, there is still a stigma of looking at someone's gender and judging them and saying, you're a woman, you write romance. I do not write romance. All of my series are not romantic, I assure you. And so it is trying to figure out how to find new ways to market to people and say, hey, I write dark fantasy. If you like the gritty stuff, I can do that too, just as good as everybody else. So that is one of the biggest struggles, is trying to prove my worth when it comes to other people in genres where they look at someone and they judge instantly, or it's not really, thankfully, it's not competing with other authors. We actually do support each other. But when you look at me versus maybe a male author writing in the same genre, someone's going to judge me a little differently than someone else. So that is something that in my field, it still needs to be worked on. And it is a process to teach people. It's like, hey, I can write dark fantasy just like someone else, and it is just as valid. So there is a little bit of an education process there.
Yes. That was beautiful. I think with that stigma, just to kind of carve out my personal path, before I went professional, before I went into a computer science career or decided to go into content creation, any of that, when I was going to school, it was very obvious that I stood out, obviously. And I'm very lucky right now. My own mother-in-law is the only Black professor at LSU in her degree. That has been thrown in my face my whole life. It is obvious that I am not the norm in my own aspirations. Now, you don't look for people like me when you're looking up that next, that new Intel CPU, who's doing the review on it? They don't look like me at all. Now, you'll definitely have more fun hearing me talk about it. That's a fact. I mean, come on. Like, we're not going to go over all the boring specs. I'm just going to speed run you to, all right, yeah, this is going to heat up and you're going to have issues. You probably want to stick with this last release. So, but with those challenges of not only just in my personal drive, taking on the responsibility of being a leader on Twitch, it's also learning that sometimes that damage can come from home. And getting to hear a lot of women's experiences, understanding what being a woman is in the space. Some of us have warped images too. So me having to go and have those deep conversations and be like, hey, what you think a woman may be or stand for or be defined as, you need to expand. Because I love that this panel is called Femme Presenting in the space. That is beautiful, because I really think that's where we need to be going. That's the direction we need to be heading, because we keep defining ourselves in this box of man, woman. And you know, people are starting to warm up to them, which is excellent. But I think a lot of what I find or the challenges that we have is when we go and we just show that we can do that work, but we're not even on the radar. We're not even in their view, because that's just not what they see. Mm-hmm. It's just not seen. So it's very easy for me to go out there. I'll go do this video and people will pat me on the back. And what I may get that's aside from anyone else is, wow, I just never expected to see a Black woman do this. Wow, I just didn't know Black women did this. That's why. And I'm like, really listen to what you're saying here. I mean, you're not looking.
They're doing compliments that are like
those backhanded compliments.
Kind of like for me, like with the adult content that I do, I'll get comments like, oh, wow, that was really good. It's really cool that someone your age and your body type do this. And it's like, I'm 42. I've had kids. I'm not a stick. Like, I have wrinkles. Like, I have all of these things. And it's like, I'm doing good because I'm 42. Like, I'm good for 42. That's not a compliment.
Right.
Like, I want to be good at what I'm doing because I'm good at what I'm doing. Exactly. Not, oh, you're good for your age. But, you know, the 25-year-old that's doing it is better. It's like, no, she's good. We're all good, but we all have different aspirations and we all have different strengths. We all have different things, but comparing each other to each other in backhanded ways is not building up each other. It's not building up the femme presenting or, you know, the females in the spaces. It's, okay.
Let's say we're hardwired to put people in boxes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
You know, not not even based on sex. We're hardwired to give people categories. I'm single, I'm married, I'm straight, I'm gay, I'm white, I'm black, I'm biracial, I'm Irish, I'm from England. We're just raised to have boxes. So it's not only a matter of showing people that the categories for you can expand and you can kind of define your own space online, but it's showing people that you don't need to be put into a box. I have like 12 jobs. There's no way to put me in a box because you can't just ask me, what do you do? And I'm going to give you a simple 1 or 2 answer. No, I'm going to talk your ear off for 30 minutes because you're not going to understand it if I give you a simple answer.
Exactly.
So, all right. So with that part, one thing that I did want to touch on is you mentioned it, the in-person behavior. As far as the digital space and behavior when we're at a convention like this, has there been anything that has happened to you in a real life space that had root or basis the way someone treated you in the digital space first? Whether it be like a fan or how someone has said something, and then it kind of comes back to you in real life. And I'm going to start at the other end though.
That's actually a great question. Like
Because you go behind the keyboard warrior, they're going to say
tried
this, they're
now.
going to say this, they're going to do this. But then when you actually are interacting with those types of
Yeah.
people in person, how does that change? How does that react to them being there?
I think it's always that volume, and just like y'all say, the anonymity really emboldens people. It just does. But I think it just comes down to ignorance. Like it's really just how ignorant can you be, and when you walk into into society, when you're talking to a person right in their face, I'm like, how do you see me and I see you and you're looking in my eyes and I'm looking back into yours and you still say this? Because then maybe that's the empathetic side of me where I'm like, wow, you really just live like this. Like this is this is your normal. Like you're this inconsiderate. You're this rude. This is how you are in your home. So I honestly, if that ever happens, well, and mine is backwards. I'll give you an example. So mine is backwards. When I was going to school, getting my degree, and I would go to my professor's office hours. It's a waste not to. You really should use your office. You want your teacher to remember you. So if you need to go and get that extra credit or that extra half point on your exam, I've argued for it. It's not fun, but I do it because I'm adamant. You want them to know who you are. So they're not just like some blank face and they can just easily write you off. So I had a professor come up to me because we've gone through office hours. I was doing data structures. It's hard. Ugh. I'm just sitting in the hall. I didn't even talk to him. He's like, "Oh, hey, Chelsea. I just really wanted to talk about your hair because my wife, she traveled the world and she just had so many experiences. She's seen so much, and she would tell me about all these amazing people and their hairstyles. And I really love what you do. But I think when you go into a career, you'll pick a more professional one." And just walks off. And it's like something that it's something that person really thought was just something that they could unload onto me. Like they looked at me in my eyes several times, because it's not always somebody who's gonna you've never seen them before. Sometimes they built a relationship with you, like online. They've talked to you in your streams. They've talked to you in your discords. They've had this kind of parasocial relationship that they built up. You have a rapport, and people can still take you as, I would say, inconsequential. They put your feelings aside, and that's just something you have to take with grace. That's something that you have to accept about the world, because we're not here to change people. We're not here to correct. It's not our jobs. It's never our jobs. So with that, I took that opinion and I used it as fuel. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what you think. You think I'm about to just walk around here and straighten my hair, and that's not going to happen, because that is so limiting. But that's just one experience. And I've never given someone the opportunity since then, at least not, as far as I can control it. But I've always corrected any behavior I've seen towards other people as well. I can't speak for my experiences because I'm lucky enough that I have decent people when they come up to me. I think I set a tone on my stream. I'm
You
like,
do.
hey, yeah, you're right, yeah. I'm like, hey, we don't do that here. But I've seen some things to some of my fellow creators, and
So
I've
we've
had
talked
to
about that on the Building Your Community panel last year, where you cultivate the community that you want around you.
Exactly.
You allow people to see what kind of behavior you're going to tolerate. And that's why at the beginning of becoming a content creator of any type, you can't let bad behavior slide.
Period.
Because then people go, oh, she's just going to overlook that. She's just not going to do anything about it. So you start from the beginning where you don't let people make derogatory comments about things that you don't agree with. You don't let people direct your comments or what you have going on in your space, because that's your community. You're building it.
Exactly.
And it's easier to start that from the beginning versus, oh, I'm a small creator, it doesn't matter right now. No, that's when it matters, because it builds up and it builds up and you keep going with it.
I have to hear from y'all though.
Yeah.
Because
Well, actually, yesterday in this wonderful room, I was on a panel for TikTok and authors, and one of the things we were talking about was the fact that trolls exist. And whenever you are on, especially a live stream function, but may not necessarily be just live streaming, just being on social media in general, there is that, again, as you said, the distancing factor, which makes people emboldened to say whatever they want to say. And because it is your space and you're building your community, you have the right to block people. You have the right to ignore people. You don't engage with people and you get them out of there. And we actually touched that topic because trolls exist. And it is heartbreaking and rude when you're trying to talk about maybe educating people on, again, as an author, the writing process or self-publishing, or talk about your books and genres and subgenres and your character development. And someone's like, oh, and looks at you and it's like, show me your stuff. It's not cool. Block, ignore, move on. And it's really insulting, and they do exist. Now, face to face, maybe because I feel like, and maybe I'm self-confident enough to say this, I have a presence. People aren't going to say that to my face, which is great. But that is a fact of the persona that maybe I built out, or the fact that the people who come and contact me on the face-to-face aren't necessarily the same people who see me on social media streaming and have that, oh, I want to say again the first thing that hits my brain and goes out through my lips and goes into the ether. So thankfully, I don't think I've dealt with a lot of issues that are offensive in the real world, but I do see them regularly on the streaming and the digital and the social media space. And it's unfortunate, but we have the power to create our community, hold our community, defend our community, and get them out of there.
So mine's a little bit different. We talked a few times about how most people online won't act the same way they do to your face in person. But unfortunately, sometimes they do. It's happened to me twice over the past 20 years, and it actually has changed the way I dress a little bit, unfortunately, though I am more comfortable in the way I dress now. I've had fans who built up a rapport online and in public. They have followed and cornered me in bathrooms when no one else was in the bathroom. They made sure no one else was in there and tried to block me coming out of a stall. Now, I'm 5'2", I'm tiny, but I can take care of myself. I have had to be physical with people and shove them out of my face and shove them out of the bathroom and draw attention to security at events for how do you let this happen? And it's not just I've been followed by a male. I've been cornered by multiple sexes, multiple presentations. Sometimes people have it in their head that your character, because of how you are online. I mean, I try to be myself online a lot, but I also try to be professional and not drag things on and get a show done quick. But they build up in their head who they think that you are. They might build it up in your head that you're kind of their fantasy person, and something clicks with them when they see you that they think they get to enact their fantasy. So it's,
And when you say no,
yeah, and they don't take no. Well, you're justified to behave the way you need to do to get out of a situation, in my opinion.
as someone who does adult content, there's been run-ins with people in
Yeah.
but I try not to be by myself in public. You don't do it elevators by yourself. At Dragon Con, that's not really a big
Yeah.
deal because you're gonna get an elevator by yourself. But we don't, aside from Dragon Con,
It's
like,
happened here at Dragon Con
Really?
where I've been. Yeah, I've now just learned. You
Just don't go
you used
elevators
to
by
you used to
myself.
get to. You'd be like, oh, I find a bathroom that most people don't go to. There's not going to be a line. I can go in here, and then
Yeah,
and
don't
an
do that.
incident happened, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go where
I'm gonna go stand in
I'm gonna
line.
go stay where I know that line, or I'm gonna hold it until I get to my hotel.
And
So,
it's bad that you have to do that
Yeah.
because of the way that people are in public because of a thing that they've built up in their own head.
yeah, it was like if I wear a certain costume, I like to wear vintage clothes. If I wear a certain outfit, that I'm not doing it for the viewer. I'm doing it because this is what makes me happy. This is what makes me feel most comfortable in my skin, and I have adjusted some things that I wear, but I shouldn't feel like I have to.
Yeah.
Just to be able to feel like I'm protecting myself.
You know what bothers me the most is my friends that I made, and I'm really tall, and just hearing about how like in plain clothes, like just on the regular, because they just happen to be shorter.
Yep.
The amount of like people coming up and picking them up. And see, like you're saying this is like how you're agreeing right now and how it's normal.
Yeah,
like
they
you're
think
just
it's cute.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
so it blew my mind. when
Being
I
5'2",
heard.
the amount of people that just come up behind you, just pick. You're like,
And it's just alien to me. So I just want you to know, like, I'm right here in the I'm looking at those people who do that, and I'm like, yeah, no, you're not wild. They're insane. I'm
But
sorry.
it's also like
Yeah.
where were you?
Where
Did you grow up?
that was okay.
How were you raised?
Yeah.
That somebody said that you could do this,
But yeah, no, and that's
or that somebody would like it
advocate for your
without
friends.
asking first.
Yeah, no, I'm the bully of the group now
Yeah.
because that's just so wild to me. If I see anybody uncomfortable, and this is something I really want y'all to do for your friends, you just see somebody even making someone uncomfortable, and y'all just have, even if it's like a 5-10 minute relationship, be that person, be the barrier, because I do that all the time.
Yeah, I can't be the tall person
Yeah.
protecting people now, but I am definitely the loud mouth
I know
now.
you are.
And
Right?
my voice can pierce across a room now.
Yes.
You had to learn how to project being a singer.
Yeah.
I also learned how to project just being in a crowd.
There you go.
So
This is why I love that a lot of conventions are promoting that cosplay is not consent. As a cosplayer myself, who's wearing a relatively revealing cosplay today, I think that the culture is shifting. Like, obviously, it's going to take a long time, and this is like a relatively new concept. But I do love that many conventions are now saying like cosplay is not consent. Just because someone is wearing a cosplay doesn't mean you can touch them. It doesn't mean you can take a picture with them. It doesn't mean you can anything. And the fact that that's like being posted all around and being cycled through, I think it's starting to get people to realize that this is not just because someone is wearing something, it doesn't make it okay. But I also wanted to say that we kind of talked about this a little bit on Thursday night's panel, the Digital Confluence panel. Digital creators don't owe you anything. Just because we have a platform and we use it, it doesn't mean that we owe anybody anything. And if you have an expectation of us, that's on you. We give our own expectations. And if you come up to a digital creator who you admire, we're not famous. We don't have security teams. We don't have, employees. We we are not given the same protections that like actual famous people have. Like even at Dragon Con, like I'm an invited professional, but like I don't get escorted back behind state, like where people can't see me to go places like the celebrities are, and I think that there are influencers and digital creators who are at a level of celebrity, but they don't have the same protection that celebrities get. And that's scary. And so I think, like, in the same way that cosplay is not consent being cycled, is that digital creators, they don't know you shit.
What's
Sorry,
out there, like,
period.
besides cosplay, like just consent
Yes.
for anything
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
consent.
I got a
mean,
bad
like,
ribbon yesterday. It says corsets are not consent. I was like, I love this.
That's beautiful.
Like, I love it.
I wanted to take a little time to answer the question about my own personal experience too. Again, like, no one has explicitly come up to me in the same ways that my trolls have online, but I get a lot of comments about my cosplays, especially when they get to the wrong side of the internet, where they're like, the one that sticks out in my mind is a Wonder Woman cosplay I did, and someone just wrote extra extra large Wonder Woman, and I was like, cool story, bro. But like, I think there's a certain level of bravery that comes with saying that to someone's face that a lot of people who say that don't have. Because in my experience, when people project that, it's them projecting their own insecurities onto me, and that them making those comments actually have nothing to do with me. They're a little triggered by me wearing a Wonder Woman cosplay in the body that I have. And that's on them. That has nothing to do with me. And it took me a little while to get there, but that's why I actually create content around body image, because I'm trying to be out here and help people so that they have the tools that I have in my tool belt, that comment didn't actually bother me, right? But if there was a new baby cosplayer who got that comment, it may discourage them from ever cosplaying again. And that just breaks my heart. So that's why I do the work that I do, and kind of saying, like, if you get a comment like this, and I actually did, I screenshotted it, I kept it on my page, and I said, if you ever get a comment like this, here are 5 ways that you can handle it. And the first one is to, like, feel however it makes you feel. It's not nice. That person said something that doesn't feel good. So you're allowed to have those feelings. Then the next thing is to recognize that that's their reflection of them. It's not a reflection of you. And then, as we all keep talking about community, tell your community about how this comment made you feel. People will lift you up. They'll be like, listen, your Wonder Woman cosplay looked amazing. That person has no idea what they're talking about. Just because they said that, it doesn't mean anything about how you looked that day. And like, those are kind of like the things that I do in my community, and hope that it trickles into the world and starts to make a actual difference.
Right? Like, for me, because of the adult content part, the worst one that I've ever had in person was after I was at another convention, and I did the parenting the digital age panel that I do at a lot of different conventions. And I touch on the fact that I do adult content. I'm not ashamed of it. I don't hide it. It is my job. But I had my daughter with me. My daughter is fully aware of what I do. She is 10 years old. She is fully aware that, as she says, mommy sells her boobies on the internet. So it's age appropriate, but whatever. But I had someone come up to me after one of my parenting panels in front of my daughter and go, you should be ashamed of yourself for what you do and letting your daughter know about it. And I said, why? For being body positive, for being sex positive, for teaching her that her body is hers to do with as she pleases, and that nobody else gets to tell her what to do and how to use her own body. And the person there, they didn't have a response back to that. They stood there and they were like, and they walked off. And I was like, and that is why I do what I do. Because yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's easy. It's good money. But there's a lot more to it, because there's so much of people, breaking each other down. And with everything going on in the world and us, losing the body autonomy that we have, it's important to maintain that in any way that you can. And I feel like in its own way, that's kind of like my little corner of the internet. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
on that note, we do have a little bit more time to go through. So I want to see if we have any questions from the audience for any of the creators up here, and the microphone's there. So you can make sure you talk through that so it goes through to the live stream.
So just to everyone, you briefly touched on, possible scary situations, even in the digital realm, or what do you do to help, I guess, protect the real life persona from your digital persona in that regard?
I can tackle that first. I go back and forth on it. So you can see I put my Instagram personal account there. I only open it up once a year during Dragon Con. I open it up about a month before con, even though I do content about Dragon Con pretty much the whole year long. The rest of the time it's locked down in private and you have to request to follow me. After con, I pay attention to comments. I pay attention to who's followed me. Make sure they're not bots, make sure they're not people just collecting one-off screenshot photos of people on the internet. I make sure I know, like, I'll say what city I'm from. I don't say what side of town I live on. I have a really difficult last name to both spell and pronounce, thanks to getting married a few years ago. So most people, if they know my maiden name, you still wouldn't be able to find me anymore unless you're finding, you'll find articles about my band. But to be able to find me now, you need to know my real last name, and it's difficult to track it. And every time I've moved, I do an internet scrub of my addresses. It sucks that I have to do it, but it's a way. If you get to a point where you're starting to feel uncomfortable, a lot of us know IT people. A lot of us know people who work in cybersecurity. There's people you can get help from. There's programs you can use to cover your tracks, to hide your address. Things that these days and age you should be doing it just for identity protection, for getting your credit card stolen or your bank account hacked. It's the things you can use to protect just your digital life, so that you don't lose money or something, are the same things you can use to protect your actual real life. But you as a creator get to decide how much of your personal information you want to share. And as long as you stick to that, it's fairly easy to navigate it. And then if things get scary, there's more laws being created all the time to help protect people online. It's report it to every place you can think of. Every law enforcement, if your local PD doesn't listen to you, contact your state attorneys, report people on the social media you're using. I mean, except for Facebook, because they don't really listen to reports most of the time. But make noise. Just always make noise. Don't ever feel like you're not worth having your voice heard, because at some point you're going to find somebody who'll listen to you and help you. Like, that's one of the great things about Reddit. A lot of people complain about Reddit, but there's so many communities on there that you can go to and build little relationships and support the same way that we can in our Discords and in our niche fandom groups. And people will help you make noise if you just ask, where should I go for help?
I'm gonna add on to that and say, if you're starting fresh, try to find a tribe, or if you already have a tribe in your personal life, make them involved in that. Not necessarily, if you're a streamer, they don't have to come on and play games with you, but make sure you have a healthy relationship with your friends, because that's your grounding point. Because what still blows me away to this day is that people get on Twitch and think they have to take harassment to be successful. And I do not understand that, because it goes back to what we all say: what you entertain is what you're going to get. Like, that's how people are going to treat you. So be very, very, very strict with your boundaries. I know this stuff sounds very elementary, but people still to this day don't get it.
And people forget once you
Yeah.
start getting attention and
Yeah.
followers and the excitement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't let it get over your head.
It's fine. I'll just I'm
I
actually 5'8". In my head, I'm 6 feet.
want to be 6.
My question was actually about the overall theme of the panel being female presenting in the digital space.
Yes.
How do you, and what you entertain is what you're going to get, but how do you stop the perception that whatever you're doing is the sexy version of what you're doing? Like, I was Tina Belcher yesterday, not a sexy character and by any means, right? That's the fun
Yeah.
of Tina. We love Tina.
I love
And then when someone said, "Oh my God, you did sexy Tina," and I was like, I'm just
I'm just Tina.
a body. And I think in the digital space, like I have 2 podcasts that I would like to do. And when I was telling someone about my idea, they're like, oh yeah, like an after dark thing. And I'm like, no, actually just what I would like to create. How do you separate the people's natural association with female presenting equaling sex anything and being objectified? How do you separate that moving through the digital space? Assuming that's not what you're doing on purpose.
I feel like there's okay.
I mean, when I do my Twitch streams, I make it a
Yes.
very big point because with having multiple avenues of content, I don't focus on the adult content because that actually came later. I did a lot of Twitch streaming for a long time, and it's become the joke now that like my Twitch streams, I look like a homeless gremlin. Like I very rarely brush my hair. I'm probably wearing this oversized hoodie. I probably am wearing I don't even have my contacts in. Makeup's non-existent. So it's just like, I kind of like went to the extreme to desexify like that side of my content because I wanted to make sure there was a big differentiation of the two because I didn't want people coming to that platform looking for that. And so I'm like, well, this is this, but I also don't talk about sexy things over there. Like you can't, first off, but I also talk a lot about mental health things during my Twitch stream. Like I'm, shooting things in Overwatch and we're talking about, my latest therapy session. So it's not that type of content anyway. And I mean, someone might get off on it, but if they do, I can't help that. But you really just kind of have that differentiation. And if you've never even done the sexy side of things, just the correction. Just, keep going. No, this is not what I'm doing. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And that's all you really can do is just keep repeating yourself that,
Yeah,
I'm not doing this.
And in your intro.
Because
this
again,
is what my show is.
that's a boundary for
Yeah.
you. Your boundary is I'm not doing this. And you need to just reiterate that towards people.
And personally speaking from so many live streams, and I'm there to either promote my books or to talk to other authors about the writing craft. When someone jumps on and starts talking about something totally different, and maybe it's about what you're wearing or it's just something off the cuff, again, trolls exist, but I continue talking about my craft. I continue talking about books, and eventually if I don't block them, they get bored because I'm not here to engage with you. I'm here to talk about, guess what? I write this and this and this, and these are the characters. Or I'm going to be engaging with someone else today, and we're going to be talking about their personal experience and how they came to be and their journey. And you just push through. Again, don't acknowledge. My thing is not acknowledge and just talk about what you want to talk about. Continue to talk about it. The people who want to be there to listen to you to talk about whatever topic you're there about are going to support you. So be true to yourself. Don't acknowledge, don't engage, and kind of ignore.
And if the people you told already, like these are the ideas I want to do, so I'm assuming you haven't started yet. Don't let them saying, oh, a sexy version of, oh, an adults only, an after dark. Don't let that get in your head to begin with.
Yeah.
You form the idea of what you want to talk about, what you find interesting, or what you think is missing from the digital space, from the podcast, what really gets you excited to talk about, and you put your content out there. And if somebody's going to come along and be like, whoa, but what about this? Putting it in a direction that is not your intent, again, you can block, you can call it out. Either way, it's your content. Your audience or the people you tell what you do not get to decide what your content is because you own it, not them.
Yeah, and once you start doing that, the right people will find you.
Yeah.
And it won't be the people who are like, flash me your boobs.
Yeah.
You'll cultivate a community of people who really like your content for what you have to offer. And I think that's really true. It's just like the more authentic you are in what you have to offer, those people will take themselves out.
And if anybody shows up, your followers will
Yeah.
jump on them too.
Oh yeah, mine will do that too. Like on Twitch, if people start going off on the other team, they're like, we don't talk about that here. They're like, that's not. They go, she charges for that, but that's over there. Like this is this, and they will like police for me, which is really kind of nice. Any other questions?
Yeah. That is gorgeous. That is a beautiful dress.
While you're on your way up, I will also add that it's just like a societal conditioning for people to just see women as sexual or femme presenting people as sexual. And that's nothing that we have control over, unfortunately. I do think like slowly again, society is shifting, but the more we kind of are just like, nah, I just exist, the more normalized it becomes.
Like there was a TikTok sound that was like, am I showing off my boobs or do I just have boobs and exist?
Hi, this has been so. I've flown all the way from UK for my first Dragon Con. I'm loving this space because it's something I've been exploring for a little while. I just don't have the guts to do it, but we'll see. My question is, if you weren't doing the areas that you were doing now, which other areas would you be looking to explore and why?
I would be in a lab. I would probably be doing some form of data visualization because
On Twitch or just like?
oh,
I meant on Twitch. I mean,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
I wasn't clear. It's my bad. Sorry.
I would be
Still
lab.
in the digital space.
Yes, still in the
I would be a lab
digital
gremlin.
space. No, it's my someone who writes. My communication can be a little bit off. I could be just needing British and whatever.
it's
But yeah, if it was within the digital space, if you weren't doing what you were doing now, in terms of your particular type of content, what other content would you want to?
Hair care and makeup. I would be a beauty influencer so fast because it's fun and I feel like it adds back to you. Like can I say like the fact that you're doing like a health focus, it adds to your like physical well-being. Like it adds back into your cup. And I just feel like if I could just pour whatever content I have and it adds back to me personally, like physically, like I can see the change it. Bending over a computer, and yes, I know the feedback is gonna get me. That's my bending over a computer for days does not help you physically or mentally. But I enjoy it. I mean, sometimes your passions, you just put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But yes, makeup, hair, beauty, all of it.
I have a weird nerddom, I guess. My husband and I actually both talked about this, and if anybody remembers the show Drunk History, we came up with a concept where we would be drinking after hours, live stream our conversations of him talking about D&D, and I, as a mythology person, will be relating it, the history of D&D relating to the various mythologies, which it may or may not have pulled from, and live stream that. We have not done that. But that would be something I think I would love to do.
That would, I can already see that would be a hit. Actually, so I would build out a bigger studio in my house and have musicians come over to my house and play live and interview them about their influences and albums and stuff. Just because I think a lot of roots music, it's not commercial, so it doesn't get a lot of promotion. Either that, or I would take my face completely off the internet and I would do nail art.
Ooh, I watched.
Because I spent the pandemic following this YouTuber named Simply Nailological, and I am
loves.
I am obsessed with her nail brand, and I own almost every nail polish she's ever released. But I used to spend $120 a month to go have somebody else do my nails, and it destroyed my fingernails. Yeah. So I learned how to take care of my nails and do nail art from her. And yeah, I work with my hands a lot, so I always have calluses and what do they call it? Hangnails. So it would force me to take better care of my skin. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of how I do nails. So that would be it.
I love this question because I'm one of those people who's like, I could do anything. Like my brain, I have my hands in so many different pots that I just already feel like I do everything. So I'm like, what would I do if I didn't do one of the things that I do? And I do think there's something really lovely about cozy gaming and streaming like cozy gaming, because that's not something I've ever tried or think I would be very good at. The whole setup, a Twitch setup while like streaming, I'm like, what?
Girl.
I've tried to stream my workouts and I was like, no, never mind. On Twitch at least, like nobody wants to see this. So I do traditional, like you can find this video in my workout library, basically.
The live streaming's different.
It's
definitely
such
a lot of,
Yeah.
lot of stuff.
So different.
There's a whole panel on that tomorrow.
Yeah, cozy gaming. There's just something about like sitting with a game that makes you feel good and just like chatting with people that just seems so fun. So that's something I would like to try.
I would do like cooking streams and cooking demos. I used to manage fine dining restaurants and run kitchens. And then when I was a stay-at-home mom, I wrote a food blog for 3 years. But then I just got bored because you can only cook so many things after writing it. But I would do cooking streams. I think it's fun. I love to cook. My daughter eats all kinds of different foods for her age group because she's always been exposed to so many different types of culinary styles. And I think that some of the big, and I want to do easy things, like simple things, but you still have those, you know, world flavors and all of those, but people think they're so hard to cook, so they don't. And a lot of children don't get exposed to these flavors, so they have very picky, very basic palates because they haven't. And my daughter, her favorite foods are Thai food, Korean, Vietnamese, Indian food, and those are all things that I can cook from scratch, and it's not hard. But people think they are because they don't understand that style of cooking and the flavors and how to combine those things. And I think it'd be really fun to do. That's a lot of setup and a lot of work and a lot of money.
It's not that. It's not that hard. The food
The
part.
food ingredients
The food
right
part,
now,
yes.
I'd
The
go
food
broke.
part, right?
I go broke trying to buy
Got you
food
on
right
the
now
side.
just to cook it for a stream.
That's a
Thank you
great
very much.
question.
Thank you for your
Thank
question.
you.
Then we have one last quick question because we've got 5 minutes.
All right. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you because it's really inspirational to listen to you. And I guess my question would be, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's experienced, you know, you have a great idea, you know that you've got something to share with the world and that you're talented at it. But overcoming self-doubt and second guessing yourself, especially as a woman, we tend to do that more often than men do, because we feel like if we're not an expert, if we're not absolutely the best at something, then should we proceed? Can we call
So,
ourselves an expert?
I know we don't have a lot of time to answer this question right now because there's only like 4 minutes left.
Of course.
But there is a panel tonight at 8:00 called Imposter Syndrome, Getting Over Yourself.
Imposter
And I'm
syndrome,
on that
it's
one.
true.
And we are going to talk about that
Excellent.
because when they were like, yeah, you're on this panel, I was like, me? What? Woo?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, wait, that's exactly what we're talking about.
How to, like reinstill yourself with confidence and push. past that.
But I'm pretty, if one of you has a quick answer
got
to
a
that
quick-
question.
I have one too. though.
Go-
No,
quick answer.
Okay,
I'll go quick. It depends on how you are motivated. For me, I look at the audacity of my husband/men getting up and saying I can do anything. And I'm like, how dare you look at me like that, holding me to that standard? So I use that and I run with it. And I tell myself I don't have the opportunity to sleep or wait or whatever. It's a little harsh, but that's just how I move.
I say fail. If you're going to fail, fail spectacularly.
Yes.
And I know that sounds really weird, but I'm the person where in my craft, I feel like I've done everything the wrong thing first. And I point that out and I say it and I preach it and I'm trying to educate others and people love that because they learn from me and they're like, oh, you got this time and supporting me. So guess what? If you're going to fail spectacularly, acknowledge it and other people will be there to support you along the way no matter what.
So I have a panic and anxiety disorder, lifelong, and so I deal with it the same way. I deal with that and just accept that it's going to happen. It's there. If I want something, I just have to do it. Now they can take me 5 years to get it done, but I'm still I'll get there eventually, and I'm not going to judge myself of how harshly I think about it or how long it takes. Period.
My quick thing, I'm also on the imposter syndrome panel if you do want to come to that, but my quick thing is that you authentically doing your idea, even if everyone else in the world is doing it, it will not be the same because you're doing it. And so like no matter what you put out into the world, even if 100 other people are doing it, you're going to do it differently because you are you.
And then I'm going to read off our Dragon Con charity, and then I'm going to tell everybody where to find us. So the Dragon Con charity for 2024 is the Arthritis Foundation. See, I can't talk. Number one cause of disability. Arthritis affects nearly 60 million adults and hundreds of thousands of children. Dragon Con matches up to $125,000. Last year, we raised $272,000 for the 2023 charity. I can't see either. So, yes, that's our charity. So go check it out. It's on the thing up there. Yeah, see. Okay. I'm Phaedra Black. You can find me. It's really easy. PhaedraBlack.com. I made it really simple because I don't know.
I love that.
I'm Heather Bodie. On all social media platforms, it's just my name. And again, my last name is spelled with 2 D's. So it looks like body, but with 2 D's. And my workout program is called Geeknasium. Again, that's like gymnasium, only geek. And my podcast is called Mental Health Multiverse. I do have business cards if you want all of that written down. And if you want to find me after, I'm doing a giveaway for a free membership to my workout program. So
So my Instagram is currently open. That's my Instagram, a little bit odd. You can find me there. You can also find me the Dragon Con Report on Instagram, Facebook, not Reddit, Discord, and yeah. I think that's most of the places.
Well, I'm Catherine E. Wabel. I have my website, which is Catherine Wabel Books. My name is spelled very, very weird, so that's why I wrote it down for you. And I am on a variety of social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, etc., so on. So you can find me a variety of places and check me out there.
I'm Chelsea Bites everywhere. It's so easy to just Google me. I'll pop up. I promise. I
Right?
promise.
That's how mine is. It's like there's one of me. It's
There's
there.
this one.
But if you like the panel and you want to see us again next year, make sure you rate us really good in the app because we love y'all. And then tell Charles to have us back.
Thank you all.
Oh my God.
Thank you.